Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Just checking, make sure everything's going good there.
Testing, testing.
So, been wondering what this map's going to look like. Well, this map says third time's the charm, and it's labeled there the V Rebellion.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that will be what it goes down in history as.
Ooh, wow, that's pretty interesting.
Right? Interesting that they're saying the V Rebellion.
It is. It reminds me of a movie.
V for Vendetta.
Ah,
you remember that?
That's right.
You know, there's been so much foreshadowing in movies, and so we could look at that one, right? We could look at I Am Legend, because what happened in I Am Legend in the beginning? Oh my gosh, they discovered the cure for cancer. 3 years later, where is everybody?
That's right.
Yeah, pretty amazing when you look at it. You got to wonder too. As we have said, you know, there's a lot of different technologies being used out there, and they're not all the exact same technologies. And I think many of you would be able to pick up on that. So yeah, you see here, these are the states that, well, some of the governors seem to be speaking up. And you see here, we will fight them to the gates of hell, in quotation marks. GOP governors rise up as 46 bullies. Interesting what we're seeing going on right now. And if you've been following this channel for a while, maybe you've been following it all the way back to 2017. First videos I made talking about what was in store and what was planned was basically that eventually we were going to end up breaking up. The country was going to fragment. Didn't know exactly how that was going to happen. I just knew that it was in the cards. It was in the plans. It's what I've gotten basically visions of going back to 1984. And that we would have a red dawn upon the country at some point in time. So here we see, you know, perhaps we know now how things can end up manifesting along those lines. And here we see some quotes. How can we get to this point in this country where you would not let them earn a living because of their choice on the you know what? I think it's fundamentally wrong. I do not believe that people should lose their jobs over this issue, and we will fight that. Now, you know, of course, people that are of a prophetic slant, biblical prophecy, for instance, you know, there's a lot of them that are saying, see, this is the mark of the you know what. And it's not roast beef.
No, it's definitely not roast beef.
No, or roast beast. Is you remember the what was that? That was the Grinch that stole Christmas.
Yes.
Feels like there's some Grinches afoot. As you see Governor Kristi Noem, who many people, you know, are really impressed by, and of course there'll be those that are not. South Dakota will stand up to defend freedom. See you in court. Governor Brian Kemp, I will pursue every legal option available to the state of Georgia to stop this blatantly unlawful overreach. By 46. Oklahoma Governor Stitt says that as long as he's governor, there will be no government V mandates in state. Greg Abbott over in Texas says it's an assault on private businesses. I issued an executive order protecting Texans' rights to choose whether they or what they want to do with their own body, basically. Texas is already working to halt this power grab. And it was funny because you see some people saying, what are you talking about, power grab? It's like, where's your head? You know, I mean, is it up somewhere it shouldn't be, or is it in some hole somewhere? You got to just be, well, you know, I think there's just too many people that don't have a clue of what was even written in the Constitution, because it wasn't all this. Governor Kay Ivey, once again, POTUS has missed the mark. Outrageous, overreaching mandates. No doubt be challenged, and it goes on. Governor Bill Lee, for a fight that requires working together. A lot of cynical and divisive edicts came out of the White House today, pitting the VED against the unVED, businesses against employees, and federal government against states. Governor Ricketts, another statement, Governor Kim Reynolds, it goes on. Henry McMaster as well, and they keep going on. Some of them were removed by tweet. And you guys remember this. This was El Presidente numero uno, right? George Washington, Freemason. Yes. And also a person that is attributed to having a vision, which I did a video on several years ago. Actually, I think I've done 2 or 3 videos talking about Washington's vision, which was given to him at the famous Battle of Valley Forge. And he was shown big woes that were going to come to this country. And so he was shown, according to this vision, that one of the challenges the country was going to face was going to be a civil war, which ended up manifesting 1861 to 1865, but also he had a vision of how things were going to spring up, which was very, very much like the Hopi prophecies of, seeing, iron cars going back and forth across the whole country, trains, things along those lines, planes in the sky, not quite understanding what they are, etc., as technology comes down. Well, the biggest woe he saw was an actual invasion of the United States by forces, again, kind of very similar to the way the Hopi prophecy states, coming from the ancient lands. And it almost looks like the United States is overwhelmed, but in the end it pushes back after a long fight and repels the invasion, according to Washington's prophecy, with some angelic help. And this gentleman, Robert C. Newman, did this kind of PowerPoint presentation here about it and trying to trace the authenticity of it, because of course there's always people that say that's just bull, and then there's others that think it's real. So for a long time, because he did this work farther back, this was supposedly given in Valley Forge 1777, that famous cold snap and everything, and the freezing over and the troops not having shoes and all that. And they were just, about ready to give up, but they didn't. And so then the tide turned. Well, he first encountered the story back in the 1950s through the Russian Bible Society. But since then, he was able to track it back to a pamphlet in 1864 at the time of the Civil War. Isn't that interesting? So it's been around for a while, and it gets into the whole story. There's perils. The Revolution was the first, which Washington was in the middle, then the Civil War, and then there's an invasion that almost destroys the entire country, and that's at a time when technology is much more advanced than it was back in his day. Interesting, is it not? Well, we have Albert Pike, and of course, Washington and many of the founding fathers were Freemasons. They were members of secret societies, and there was a time when perhaps there were good secret societies, maybe even outnumbering the bad secret societies. Of course, infiltration has changed that, and of course the darkness that's upon the land has most definitely changed things. And this is Pike's letter to Mazzini. And Giuseppe Mazzini was an Italian revolutionary leader of the mid-1800s, as well as the director of the Illuminati. Now, Pike was a historical Masonic figure, 33rd degree Freemason, occultist, Grand Master, and creator of the southern jurisdiction of the Masonic Scottish Rite Order. Talks about the need for 3 world wars. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia, making the country a fortress of atheistic communism. See, this is how they use the different religions as a tool to, basically set the stage for what's going to come next. And so it gets into that. And we don't forget, too, that, who basically brought about the restoration of Israel after 1900 years or so. Well, some people will say it was God. Well, it was actually a ROTSH, child, Red Shield, famous banking family that, had one of their forefathers making the famous statement that it doesn't care who sits on the throne as long as they control the money, they control everything. Well, yeah, that was the Balfour Declaration, and it was brought about by those banking cabal people of that famous family. And it gets into the Second World War, and it talks about Nazism and everything. Now, what's fascinating, too, is, this is supposedly written in 1871 using these terms. It talks about the fascists, the Zionists, etc., and talks about setting the stage for the Third World War, which will be Islam against Christianity and Zionism, and everybody destroys everybody. So they could roll around and bring out the true Luciferian doctrine, right? So it's interesting because, people will say this is obviously, something that is fake. How could it be real? 1871, calling out the two world wars that we've had and talking about the third one that's going to come. But, it's reference and it's historical references to this as early as 1900. So even if it, wasn't the case that it was written in 1871, this letter was known well before the start of World War I, which is really curious. But again, how long are these things planned out?
Well, that's kind of my thought, is how long are they planned out? I feel that they're planned out way beyond any normal human brain, any human brain. So that's why I think these are possibly the off-planet entities that, sometimes we talk about.
There's a biblical quote that says, "A day to the 1,000 years to the Lord as is to a single day to a person," something along those lines. Well, that always triggered me thinking about the Sumerian kings lists, where these beings supposedly reigned for tens of thousands of years. And if they weren't from here, who knows how long they would live? And if they had certain technologies, just look at where we are now. Can you imagine 1,000 years from now? I don't think it's a stretch to think our lifespan couldn't be 3, 5, 10 times longer, maybe indefinite. So in the bigger scheme of things, some of these things, they might be 1871 to now, 150 years later, but that might be like, last week to another being that lives 10,000 years.
Right. So for them, it's easy to plan these things out in long order, which, well, to us, it looks like long order. For them, it's like short order, I guess.
Yeah, we know the lifespan of mice, for instance. They don't live so long. Any of you out there that had a pet mouse or a pet rat, they don't live like we do. It's the same thing with other beings out there that might live lives that are hundreds of times longer than ours. Again, to them, it might just be like, well, I remember putting that down and writing and thought maybe, it seems like it was last week. It was last Friday, and today's only Wednesday. To them. But to us, it seems like, God, it was ages ago. Anyway, coming back to the present day, here we have in the top left corner a CNN health pundit that claims travel within the U.S. is a privilege and not a constitutional right, calling for the restriction of movement of people that haven't got it. And don't forget those laws that were just put in effect, all about crossing state lines. Everything is being drawn. And we could see these prophecies are manifesting right now. So 46 challenges the Republicans who want to sue over his new vaccine mandates to have at it. Go ahead. See what's going to get you. Well, it's kind of like betting against the house. I mean, you go into Vegas, into a casino, it's going to be a rare occasion when you beat the house because, decks can be stacked.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different things there that are RIGGED to make sure the house wins every time. And over here, So we can see the direction that this is going. Not now, not ever. RNC to sue 46 over vaccine mandate as the GOP governors go ballistic. They're going ballistic. So everything is going according to the bigger plan that's been laid out for a very long time. And, this is, again, what we've gotten all along in the messages that we received from our guys. And, how things change, as you saw the governor over in California, there was a time when he made the statements that he was opposed to mandates. And other people as well had made that same statement, and now things have totally, totally changed. And then there's the whole science aspect of it. I'll give you guys all the links so you could go deeper in. And so 46 calls Xi Jinping, yes, the emperor of China. I think that's really probably what we should just kind of say, the apparent emperor of China.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
In an attempt to reset strained bilateral relations. Yeah, I'm not really buying it. I think that's a legitimate photo showing legitimate feelings. I think these guys are lathering up each other's backs in the hot tub, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, looking at him, I mean, psychically, he's like he feels like he's in an almost enamored state. Like he is bowing down or something here. It feels really awkward.
Well, back in the old days, a lot of times kings were able to keep their kingdoms if they just bend the knee to the conquerors that are coming. You bend the knee, we keep you in your position. You do what you want to do to a certain extent as long as it's part of the bigger plan. Meanwhile, Russian and Belarusian troops practice fighting side by side in huge war games with rockets and tanks deployed all across Eastern Europe. Close to 100,000. That's a big war game. And again, Russia does not have the population that China does. It's just a fraction of it. This is a big war game going on. Sure, the Zapad war games happen on a regular basis. This is Zapad 2021. It's across 14 separate training grounds. But this is so big that they've had to break it up. As we see here, Moscow's military commanders insist that while the exercises involve large numbers of squadrons and military hardware, the quantity of the troops involved in any one set of exercises does not exceed 6,400 people, which is in line with requirements under international law. So they just break it up into smaller groupings of soldiers. Yeah, all the war games we've seen going on, these are all about getting ready for what's to come. And, if this timeline is not averted, that's going to be on the horizon. It's part of the bigger plan of certain powers that be, and it's always been part of the bigger plan. It's up to us to wake up as many people as possible to what's going on and to just say no now so we don't have to see that manifest down the line. Somehow we have to throw a curveball in so they whiff, so to speak, on connecting on that third WW. Because they are intent on manifesting that. And here, this is how Sputnik does 46 fear a coup. He's kicking out appointees of 45 off advisory boards, and there's a letter that was written here, and it comes from the Casablanca, and it's telling somebody to resign your post effective 6 p.m. tonight. Thank you. But they were appointed to a 3-year term. So this is, again, going against what has been the law. So what's really going on here? Well, in order to find out, you got to be in the hot tub with these two.
Oh, whoa.
That's the only way you're going to really find out what's going on here long term.
Yeah.
Now I don't know which one of them brought the rubber ducky.
Oh my gosh, this is really.
But somebody brought the rubber ducky.
Indeed, they did. It's sad to say. Sometimes we got to paint the picture clearly, though.
Yes. Meanwhile, stock, bonds, dollar, and crypto are all tumbling and tanking. And yet you're going to keep seeing the yuan grow stronger. And you'll keep seeing China and Russia, as well as others, adding to the reserves. There also was a statement that came out from India's military saying there was an incursion by Pakistan. And they were actually showing what they said was actual footage of the fighting going on and some anti-aircraft shells being shot up. But then somebody realized that was from a very good video game with really good graphics. So that's a big, interesting thing there in and of itself. So when you look at the numbers of what's really going on across the planet, and when I look at the numbers, the number that hits me is not the number that hits perhaps the officials out there, as we're waiting for this to pop up and give us our up to the moment computations all about the plague upon the land. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the biggest number that's going to pop up any year now. Maybe they just don't want us seeing the numbers and figuring out how to add and divide, because maybe that will throw a glitch in some plans there.
It might throw a wrench in their fine-tuned engine here, as we now it's like really slowly thinking about pulling it up.
It is. But basically what we're talking about is, cases and deaths and things along those lines. Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can start to see it. But the number of that, the population on the globe is about 7.8 billion. This is 5.6 billion. We look at the total number of cases that they tell us, and again, these are numbers. Just like when you go into any, anywhere in Vegas, there's always numbers. There's numbers given on the fights, on the games. There's lines put out and stuff. Some people give numbers, some people don't. Take them for what they are. Again, this is just what they are telling us. As you see, the total number of deaths there, and the total number of things administered, and the technologies, again, that's one of the things that is what I would get people to look deeper into. Exactly what, where is being used. Mm-hmm. Look closer into that, and look at the beagles. Remember the beagle? Yeah, I had a dog was a beagle. Mm-hmm. She was the only dog I ever had that wasn't too nice. Well, change the B in beagle to a D, and look at the numbers there, and look at the technologies used. Think about Washington's vision, and that Peril 3, an invasion that nearly destroys the country. I think we could see what's going on here, maybe. What do you guys think? I look forward to your comments. Do share what you're thinking, guys. We do appreciate it, and we do appreciate our new patrons.
Yes, we want to say a huge thank you to Mark and Kayla. Every bit helps, you guys, in times like these. It really, truly helps, and we couldn't be more grateful. Thank you.
And also, there's a link at the top of every video to medicinal foods, where you do support the channel when you try out medicinal foods, and you'll probably end up going back again, because really good product, good people, understand what's going on, the bigger scope of things, and they truly do care about people's health and well-being, as well as enlightening people and lifting up consciousness. Use the coupon code EEA for an extra 5% off the order, and as you fill up the cart, you could get up to 25% off and free shipping. So make sure you are subscribed to both channels and have the bell clicked, and share. The only way we could chase the paradigm change and chase away the paradigm that we see before our very eyes is by awakening people to the bigger picture that's going on. And that's a lot of work, but it needs to be done because, hey, we don't want a third WW.
No, and while we can, do your best to do your part. Plant those seeds, water them, be gentle in your words and how you break things to people who are not yet awakened. But, just do what you can, because all of that momentum is going to build.
Yes. As always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.